The peaceful hum of Earth's daily life was interrupted by a sharp, sudden alarm. It wasn't just any ordinary alarm, but a deep, bone-chilling warning that every human across the globe could hear. An unknown force, a colossal fleet of 800,000 alien battleships, had appeared on the edge of the solar system, heading directly towards Earth. The sheer size of the fleet was incomprehensible. This wasn't a skirmish or a minor invasion. This was something far worse. Earth had always prepared for the possibility of alien contact, but no one was ready for this. The world's defense command quickly shifted into action, with scientists and military leaders scrambling to gather any information about this new threat. Their intelligence had failed them. They couldn't understand what this alien force wanted. Communication attempts were met with silence. Suspicion began to spread like wildfire. Was this an attack? A negotiation? Or was the alien fleet simply passing through on its way to somewhere else? Cities buzzed with fear, and countries closed ranks, securing borders and preparing for the worst. There was no way to know what the aliens' true intentions were, but one thing was certain. Earth had never faced such an enormous enemy before. Military forces, satellites, and even civilian drones tried to get a closer look at the alien ships. But the closer they got, the more mysterious the ships became. Massive and imposing, their designs unlike anything Earth had seen. They were cloaked in dark energy fields, and as they hovered ominously over the planet, their size dwarfed anything Earth had ever built. It was clear now that humanity was in trouble. With no clear way to communicate or negotiate with these invaders, the only option left was to defend Earth with everything they had. The alien ships remained silent and motionless, creating an almost unbearable standoff in the atmosphere. Time was ticking. Everyone knew that Earth was running out of time to figure out how to respond. Enter Captain Alex Turner. Known for his courage and unmatched skill in previous space battles, Captain Turner was Earth's best hope. He was no stranger to danger, and he had faced threats from the unknown before. With short, dark hair and a strong, confident posture, Turner was a fighter pilot who had proven himself time and again. His reputation had spread across military ranks. This was a man who could face impossible odds and still find a way to survive. Just as humanity's leaders were about to give up hope, they turned to Turner for help. The call came late at night, emergency orders directly from Earth's military high command. The alien fleet was on its way, and Earth's only chance to survive lay in Turner's hands. He was to lead the charge against the unknown force. But there was one problem. No one knew exactly what kind of weapons these aliens had or how they would fight. Turner didn't hesitate. With an intense focus, he immediately gathered his team, preparing for what would be the fight of his life. As he suited up for the battle, Captain Turner's mind raced. He knew the fate of humanity rested on his shoulders. The alien fleet was far superior technologically, and Earth's forces were barely equipped to defend against them. But there was something humans had that no alien force could understand: their unwavering will to fight, to survive, and to protect the home they loved. Turner wasn't going to let Earth fall without a fight. In the distance, the alien ships hovered, waiting. The tension was unbearable. The world held its breath, watching as the first human fighter jets launched into the atmosphere. Turner's ship, the Titan's Wrath, was a new class of fighter equipped with cloaking technology and advanced weaponry. It was one of the last pieces of human ingenuity left that could potentially stand a chance against the invaders. As he boarded his fighter, Turner's thoughts were not on his personal safety, but on the planet he had sworn to protect. The aliens remained silent, their massive ships now visible in the sky above major cities, casting eerie shadows. Earth's defenses were readying themselves, but no one knew if it would be enough. The clock was ticking, and as the countdown to battle began, the world watched, holding its breath, waiting for the first strike. Would Earth stand against this overwhelming force, or would this be humanity's final stand? Captain Turner's voice came over the comms, calm yet filled with resolve. "This is it," he said. "We fight. We protect Earth, no matter what. As the squadron of human fighters launched into the sky, the first shots from the alien fleet lit up the darkened atmosphere, signaling the beginning of what would be a battle like no other. The fate of Earth was now in the hands of its bravest fighter. Captain Alex Turner sat in the cockpit of his specially designed fighter, the Titan's Wrath, a sleek, dark-hued vessel designed for high-speed combat. The cockpit felt small and tight, but Turner had been in these situations enough to know that the space didn't matter. It was his mind, his focus, and his skill that would make the difference in this battle. The fighter was a masterpiece of human engineering, equipped with the latest cloaking technology, powerful laser weapons, and an array of high-tech gadgets that would allow him to take on an alien fleet many times his size. The countdown to battle was over. Turner felt the engines roar to life as his fighter rocketed into the sky, piercing through Earth's atmosphere. He could hear the frantic voices of his fellow pilots over the comms, their nervous energy palpable. Everyone knew this was no ordinary fight. The alien fleet above them wasn't just an invading force. It was a massive and overwhelming army, a force designed to crush anything in its path. But the humans weren't going to let them win without a fight. As Turner soared into space, his mind raced. The Titan's Wrath was designed for speed, agility, and stealth, but facing off against 800,000 alien battleships was no small task. The sheer size and firepower of the fleet were intimidating, but Turner had one advantage. He wasn't fighting a war of brute force. Instead, he was going to fight with strategy and cunning, something the aliens likely hadn't accounted for. They were massive, yes, but Turner was fast, and that was something no amount of technology could replace. The first shots from the alien fleet came without warning. Bright, glowing beams of energy shot out, streaking across the sky like lightning. Turner's heart skipped a beat as he banked sharply to the left, narrowly avoiding a beam that would have obliterated his fighter in an instant. The alien ships were using advanced weaponry, their energy weapons far stronger than anything Earth had developed. But Turner's fighter was built for agility. He activated the cloaking system, causing his ship to blend into the background of space, invisible to the alien sensors. For a moment, he was invisible. The silence of space was broken only by the hum of the ship's engines and the soft beeping of his systems. His heart pounded in his chest. He was outnumbered, outgunned, and against an enemy unlike any he had faced before. Yet there was something about the challenge that fueled him. He wasn't just fighting for Earth. He was fighting for the future, for survival. As Turner navigated through space, the alien ships didn't let up. Beams of energy continued to shoot toward him, but his fighter danced through the beams, using the environment and his ship's advanced capabilities to stay one step ahead. It was a game of cat and mouse. Every time the aliens thought they had him, Turner would disappear into the cloak, only to reappear in a completely different location, striking with a well-placed shot before disappearing again. Despite his advantages in speed and stealth, Turner knew the odds were against him. The alien fleet had the sheer firepower to wipe out entire fleets in minutes, but that was where their strategy faltered. They relied on brute force, not the quick thinking and improvisation that humans excelled at. Each time Turner narrowly avoided a shot, he was learning more about the alien tactics, finding new ways to outsmart them. A sudden jolt rattled his fighter as a pulse of energy hit his shields. Damn it! Turner cursed under his breath as he quickly activated the shields, reinforcing them just in time to prevent more damage. The Titan's Wrath was built to withstand heavy fire, but the alien weapons were unlike anything he had ever encountered. The shields flickered, but they held. Turner gritted his teeth, knowing he had only a few moments before the aliens would adjust their tactics and find a way to break through. He hit the accelerator, pushing the fighter to its limits as he dove toward one of the larger alien ships, hoping to catch them off guard. With his cloaking technology, he was able to get close enough to fire a volley of missiles directly into the hull of the ship. The missiles exploded in a brilliant flash of light, sending shockwaves through space. For a moment, everything went quiet. Then the alien ship began to break apart, its metal twisted and burning. Turner didn't wait to see if the ship would fall. He was already darting toward another target, moving too quickly for the aliens to get a clear shot. As Turner sped through the chaos of battle, the difference between his style of combat and the alien force became clearer. The aliens relied on overwhelming firepower and brute force, while Turner used his agility, intelligence, and the Titan's Wrath's superior technology to stay one step ahead. Each narrow escape added to the suspense, each close call pushing him further into the heart of the battle. The story of a lone human fighter, defying the odds against an unbeatable enemy, was beginning to take shape. Every time the aliens fired at him, he could feel the weight of the battle bearing down on him. His body tensed as he made hair-raising maneuvers to avoid destruction. Each time, his fighter hummed with energy, and each time, he emerged unscathed. He was defying the laws of probability, but he knew it wouldn't last forever. Sooner or later, the aliens would adapt, and the fight would get even more dangerous. The tension was building. The alien ships weren't going to let him outmaneuver them forever. As Turner dove deeper into the fray, a pulse of energy shot out from a nearby ship, striking the Titan's Wrath once again. This time, it hit hard, and the entire fighter shook violently. "Come on, come on." Turner gritted his teeth, pushing the fighter to its limits as he tried to regain control. But it wasn't just the physical aspect of the fight that was draining him. It was the mental toll. Every decision he made, every move, every strike, had to be calculated perfectly. If he made even one mistake, it could cost him everything. But as the alien fleet continued its relentless assault, Turner's determination only grew stronger. He would fight to the very end, no matter what. The battle raged on, with the human fighter outwitting the aliens again and again. But as he glanced at the growing swarm of enemy ships, Turner knew this was only the beginning. The aliens had the numbers, but he had something more, the will to win, and the heart of humanity behind him. Captain Alex Turner sat in the cockpit of his ship, Titan's Wrath, staring ahead at the vast expanse of space. The ship was a masterpiece of human engineering, sleek, fast, and equipped with every piece of advanced technology Earth had at its disposal. The Titan's Wrath wasn't just a fighter. It was a weapon, a symbol of humanity's defiance against an overwhelming enemy. It had cloaking technology that could make the ship vanish from enemy sensors, advanced weapon systems capable of delivering devastating strikes, and shields strong enough to withstand the heaviest of attacks. But even with all these features, Turner knew that this mission would test him like never before. The countdown had begun, and his hands gripped the controls tightly as his heart raced. The alien fleet, a terrifying sight of 800,000 ships, hovered ominously above Earth. Turner had fought in space battles before, but nothing had prepared him for the sheer scale of this confrontation. He was alone, facing an entire fleet that could easily wipe out humanity with a single strike. The odds were insurmountable, but Captain Turner wasn't about to back down. The fate of the planet depended on him and his ship. The first attack came swiftly. A barrage of alien firepower erupted from the fleet, the energy blasts tearing through the emptiness of space toward him. Turner's mind raced as his instincts kicked in. He jerked the control stick hard to the left, narrowly dodging a powerful beam that would have turned his ship into debris in an instant. The Titan's Wrath performed a perfect barrel roll, evading another energy blast just in time. His heart hammered in his chest as the battle began. The aliens were relentless. They unleashed more energy beams, turning space into a deadly storm of light and fire. The power of their weaponry was unlike anything Turner had seen. But despite the overwhelming force of the alien ships, Turner knew he had something they didn't: speed, agility, and a mind that could outthink them. He tapped into the cloaking system, making his ship disappear into the vastness of space. For a brief moment, Turner felt a sense of relief as he became invisible to the alien fleet. However, his moment of safety was short-lived. The aliens' advanced technology allowed them to track cloaked ships, and within moments they fired again, this time with even more precision. Turner gritted his teeth as he pulled the Titan's Wrath into a sharp dive, the ship screaming through the void as energy blasts missed by mere inches. Every move had to be calculated. A single wrong maneuver could spell disaster. The speed at which the aliens fired was astonishing, but Turner's reflexes were even faster. He activated the ship's afterburners, pushing the fighter beyond its normal speed limit. As the Titan's Wrath streaked through space, dodging attack after attack, Turner's mind was racing. He was outnumbered, vastly outgunned, but this was the moment he lived for. The tension was unbearable, the pressure mounting with each second. The alien ships were massive, their weapons powerful enough to wipe out entire fleets, yet Turner was proving that a single human fighter could hold his ground. With every near miss, every narrow escape, the suspense grew. The aliens began to adjust their tactics, sending multiple ships to surround Turner, trying to catch him in a deadly crossfire. They were learning, adapting, but Turner wasn't about to give up. He dove toward the enemy ships, engaging the cloaking system once more to disappear and reappear in another position. The agility of the Titan's Wrath gave him the upper hand. His fighter was fast, and its small size made it harder to hit. He locked onto the nearest alien ship and fired, sending a barrage of laser blasts toward its hull. The shots hit their mark, causing the alien ship to explode in a burst of fiery debris. Turner didn't wait to watch the destruction. He immediately switched targets, his fighter darting in and out of the chaos, firing precision shots with deadly accuracy. Each strike was a small victory. Each alien ship he destroyed brought a sliver of hope to humanity. But just as the first alien ship exploded, another one fired a massive pulse directly at Turner. He barely managed to avoid it, feeling the heat of the blast as it grazed the side of the Titan's Wrath. The ship's shields flared as they absorbed the impact, but the energy of the blast rattled the fighter. The force of the hit nearly sent Turner into an uncontrollable spin, but he fought to keep his focus. He corrected the ship's course just in time, but the close call reminded him of the stakes of this battle. Turner was not just fighting for survival. He was fighting for the future of Earth. Every decision, every action, could determine the fate of the planet. The aliens were relentless, their weaponry far more advanced than anything humanity had. Yet Turner had the will to win. He had the courage to fight against impossible odds. He activated the Titan's Wrath's advanced targeting system, locking onto another alien ship. This time, he wasn't going to give them a chance to react. He fired a series of high-powered missiles, sending them straight into the heart of the alien fleet. The missiles exploded on impact, causing a chain reaction that tore through the alien ships. Turner grinned as he watched the destruction, but his grin faded quickly as he saw more alien ships closing in on him. The tension was rising. Turner knew the battle was far from over. The alien fleet was massive, and they were beginning to coordinate their attacks, using their numbers to their advantage. But Turner wasn't done yet. He wouldn't give up, not when humanity's survival was at stake. He pushed the Titan's Wrath even harder, engaging the afterburners again as he streaked through space, narrowly dodging more alien fire. He could hear the comms buzzing with reports from other pilots, but Turner didn't have time to listen. He was focused, his every move calculated as he outmaneuvered the aliens, striking when they least expected it. The battle was only beginning, and Captain Turner was determined to make sure that, no matter how many ships the aliens had, he would not let Earth fall. As Captain Turner engaged in battle with the alien fleet, the situation on Earth grew more dire. The alien ships had begun their full-scale assault on humanity's defenses. Massive energy blasts tore through Earth's cities, creating craters where once there had been thriving metropolises. The skyline of New York, once a beacon of human achievement, was now a smoldering ruin. Tokyo, London, and Paris were no better, their iconic structures crumbling under the weight of alien bombardment. The world watched in horror as the news broadcasted images of the destruction. Alien ships hovered above cities, launching wave after wave of devastating attacks. No city was safe, and no country was spared. Humanity's advanced technology was no match for the sheer power and precision of the alien weaponry. The military scrambled to mount a defense, but it quickly became clear that Earth's defenses were being overwhelmed. The global forces were in disarray, and people everywhere were filled with fear and uncertainty. For Captain Turner, the battle had become personal. He could feel the weight of the situation pressing down on him, knowing that the survival of his species depended on his ability to fight back. As his fighter dodged another blast from the alien fleet, Turner's mind was not only on the battle at hand, but on the people he loved. Earth was his home, and the people in those cities, his friends, his family, were counting on him. His thoughts were interrupted by a sudden distress signal coming through his comms. It was a message from his own family. His wife, Sarah, and their young daughter, Emily, were trapped in the chaos. The message was fragmented, full of static, but Turner could hear the fear in his wife's voice. "Alex, please. They're here. We're hiding. Get to us. Please." The signal cut off abruptly, leaving Turner with nothing but the dread that his family was in immediate danger. His heart raced as the emotional weight of the message sank in. Turner had always known that his duty as a fighter pilot came with a price. But this was different. This was personal. He had always believed in his mission to protect humanity, but now, that mission was directly tied to the safety of his own flesh and blood. Every maneuver, every attack he made, now felt even more urgent. He wasn't just fighting for humanity. He was fighting to save his family. But his fighter, though advanced and powerful, was not invincible. The Titan's wrath had sustained significant damage during the battle. Its systems were failing, shields flickering weakly with every hit from the alien forces. The cloaking system, which had been his most reliable defense, was malfunctioning. Turner's heart pounded as he felt the fighter lurch under the pressure of the battle. The sleek hull of the ship had been pockmarked by alien fire, and the cockpit rattled as another blast from an enemy ship rocked the vessel. Yet despite the overwhelming damage, Turner pushed through. There was no time for hesitation. He knew that he had to keep fighting if there was any hope of saving Earth, and saving his family. The aliens were relentless, but so was he. Turner clenched his jaw as he activated the afterburners, sending the fighter into a high-speed dive that narrowly avoided another alien shot. Sparks flew from the control panel as the ship bucked and groaned under the strain, but Turner didn't flinch. Every second counted, and he couldn't afford to lose focus. The alien fleet was overwhelming in numbers, and their weapons were deadly. Yet, Turner's fighter was smaller and faster, allowing him to strike back with precision. His tactics relied on speed and agility, dodging their attacks while picking off enemy ships one by one. He fired missile after missile, the explosions lighting up space as alien ships were destroyed in fiery bursts of energy. But the more ships he destroyed, the more seemed to take their place. The aliens had endless numbers, and each moment felt like a battle against time itself. As he continued to fight, Turner's thoughts kept returning to his family. He could only imagine what they were going through, trapped beneath the shadow of the alien assault. His wife and daughter had to be scared. There was no way they could understand what was happening, not like he did. For all they knew, the end of the world was happening right before their eyes. Turner's determination grew stronger with each passing moment. He couldn't let this be the end. Not for Earth, not for his family. Another blast hit the Titan's wrath, sending it spiraling toward an asteroid field. Turner gritted his teeth as he fought to regain control of the ship. The ship's computer systems were malfunctioning, the readouts flashing warnings. The fuel reserves were low, and the once advanced cloaking technology was barely functional. Turner knew that he couldn't keep this up for much longer. He was running on fumes, and the alien fleet was not relenting. But it was then that a thought struck him. The human spirit was their greatest weapon. They had fought against seemingly impossible odds before, against impossible odds in wars, in nature, in survival. The difference between humans and aliens wasn't just technology, it was heart. And Turner wasn't about to let that heart fail now. Despite the damage to his fighter, he wasn't ready to give up. He maneuvered the Titan's RAF through the asteroid field, using the natural terrain to hide from the enemy's targeting systems. He wasn't just fighting for survival, he was fighting for hope. For his family, for Earth, and for the future. As long as he had breath in his body, Turner would never stop fighting. With each pass through the asteroid field, Turner targeted more alien ships, using his remaining missiles with deadly precision. The aliens were adjusting to his tactics, but it didn't matter. He was using their underestimation of him as a weapon in itself. The alien fleet had not expected a human fighter to hold out this long, and Turner intended to prove them wrong. As the battle continued, the human fighter's determination and skill stood in stark contrast to the overwhelming might of the alien fleet. Turner's heart beat for Earth, for his family, and for the human spirit that refused to be crushed under the weight of an alien invasion. Even when all seemed lost, humanity's strength remained in its fight. One fighter against an entire fleet, unwilling to surrender. The struggle was far from over, but Captain Turner knew this. Humanity would keep fighting, no matter what. The aliens had awakened something in humanity, something they could never destroy. After the initial chaos, the battle for Earth reached a crucial point. Humanity's defenses were in shambles, but something unexpected was happening. Captain Turner, despite the overwhelming odds, had managed to hold his ground, and his sheer bravery had become a symbol of hope for the planet. Earth's military leaders, once uncertain about how to deal with the alien invasion, began to take notice of Turner's tactics and adapt them to the larger war effort. As Turner continued to fight, it became clear that humanity's strength wasn't just in their technology. It was in their resilience and their ingenuity. The Titan's wrath, though damaged, was still a powerful weapon, and Turner's relentless strategy of using speed and agility had proven effective against the much larger alien ships. With each successful strike, Turner was demonstrating that humanity could fight back, even when outnumbered and outgunned. Earth's military began to rally behind Turner's example. His daring maneuvers in the Titan's wrath had opened the door to a new way of thinking about the war. The human forces began to adapt their tactics, taking advantage of their smaller, more agile craft, using terrain and speed to outmaneuver the larger, more powerful alien fleet. Ground-based forces also started to employ similar guerrilla tactics, hitting the aliens where they least expected. It was a shift in strategy that brought hope back to the defenders of Earth. Turner, in the meantime, was constantly analyzing the alien fleet's movements. He had spent hours studying the patterns of their attacks and formations, looking for any weakness. It wasn't until he noticed a flaw in the alien fleet's structure that he saw a chance to strike back. There was a gap, a slight vulnerability in the center of the fleet's formation. It wasn't much, but it was enough. A daring plan began to take shape. Turner would lead a direct attack on the heart of the alien fleet. The plan was risky, perhaps even suicidal, but it was humanity's best shot at breaking the alien onslaught. Turner, however, didn't hesitate. He was ready. He knew this could be the turning point in the war, and he was willing to risk everything to take down the alien invaders. The military began to mobilize quickly. Fighter pilots and military leaders were briefed on the plan. Every ship, every soldier, would play a role in the assault on the alien fleet's weak spot. Turner's role was crucial. He would spearhead the attack, using the same tactics that had allowed him to survive the previous dogfights. With his fighter, the Titan's wrath, he would dive into the heart of the alien formation and strike at their core. As the attack began, there was an overwhelming sense of unity among the human forces. For the first time in the battle, the alien fleet appeared to falter. Their ships, once so coordinated and deadly, began to show signs of confusion. The human forces were no longer just reacting. They were fighting back with purpose. Alien ships were torn apart in the chaos, and the fleet seemed to lose its cohesion as human fighters weaved through their ranks, targeting key ships with deadly precision. But the aliens were quick to adapt. They had underestimated humanity's ability to fight back, and now they were countering with everything they had. A new wave of alien ships arrived, their weapons charged and ready for a vicious counterattack. The human forces had barely begun to make progress when the alien fleet responded with full force. It was a breathtaking spectacle, ships darting through the void, laser blasts lighting up the dark expanse of space as human and alien fighters engaged in a deadly dance. Turner's heart raced as he pushed the Titan's wrath to its limits, dodging incoming fire and returning fire with precision. The cockpit shook with every explosion, and the air was thick with the sound of weapons discharging. His mind was sharp. He couldn't afford to lose focus now. He weaved through enemy ships, firing missiles that caused massive explosions in the alien ranks. But for every alien ship that went down, two more seemed to take its place. The counterattack was fierce, and Turner found himself caught in the middle of a breathtaking dogfight. The alien ships were faster and more heavily armed, but Turner's fighter was nimble, allowing him to duck and weave through the enemy's fire. The battle was intense. Close calls seemed to happen every second. He narrowly avoided a blast that would have torn his ship apart, and his weapon systems were beginning to show signs of strain. The alien fleet was relentless, and every second felt like a battle against time itself. But even as the aliens launched wave after wave of attacks, Turner and the human forces refused to back down. The strength of humanity wasn't in their weapons or their ships. It was in their ability to fight when everything seemed lost. And as the alien counterattack raged on, Turner knew that they were getting closer to victory. The battle was far from over, but the human forces were beginning to turn the tide. The alien fleet, though still powerful, was starting to show signs of weakness. Their once perfect formations were breaking apart under the pressure of the human attack. It was clear that the aliens had underestimated humanity, and now they were paying the price. As the dust settled from another round of dogfights, Turner knew that this was only the beginning. The battle had taken a turn, but it was far from won. The alien fleet was regrouping, and the next wave would come soon. But for the first time since the invasion began, Turner felt a glimmer of hope. The tide was shifting. Humanity had found its fighting spirit, and now it was only a matter of time before they pushed back the invaders and reclaimed their world. The turning point had come, and with it, the promise of victory. But there was still much to be done. The fight for Earth was far from over. Captain Turner sat in the cockpit of the Titan's wrath, his heart pounding as he surveyed the chaos around him. The alien fleet, though temporarily crippled by humanity's fierce counterattack, was far from defeated. The AI-controlled ships were rebooting, coming back online one by one, their systems reawakening with terrifying speed. The brief window of opportunity that the humans had seized was closing rapidly, and Turner could feel the weight of time pressing down on him. If they didn't finish the fight now, the alien fleet would regain its strength, and Earth's last chance would slip away. The sounds of the battlefield echoed through the communication channels. Laser fire, explosions, the frantic voices of human pilots engaged in combat. Turner's fingers tightened around the controls of his fighter, the Titan's wrath. The alien fleet may have been weakened, but the battle wasn't over. The stakes had never been higher. This was it, the final assault that would determine the fate of Earth. There would be no second chances. He could hear the voices of his comrades in his earpiece, the urgency in their words. The human resistance was launching a final, all-or-nothing attack. Every ship, every fighter was now committed to this single mission: destroy the alien fleet and save Earth. The time for hesitation was long gone. It was now or never. Turner's heart raced as he gripped the controls. His fighter, though heavily damaged, was still capable of pushing through. The technology in the Titan's wrath was unmatched. Cloaking devices, high-powered weapons, and agility far beyond what the alien ships could manage. He knew that this was humanity's last shot, and he had to lead the charge. The final battle was about to unfold. As the human fleet surged forward, the enemy flagship loomed ahead, massive, imposing, and heavily guarded. Turner knew that taking down the flagship was the key to breaking the alien fleet's resolve. If they could destroy it, the remaining alien ships would lose their coordination, and the war could be won. But the flagship was heavily fortified, with layers of defensive shields and advanced weapon systems. It was the heart of the fleet, and to destroy it, Turner would have to get in closer than ever before. A fierce battle raged as human fighters engaged the alien forces in a breathtaking dogfight. Explosions shook the vacuum of space as missiles tore through alien armor, and laser fire streaked through the blackness like deadly comets. Turner's mind was focused. He darted and weaved through enemy fire with precise movements, his fighter's cloaking device making him a ghost in the storm. Each dodge, each calculated strike, brought him closer to the heart of the enemy's fleet. But the alien flagship remained steadfast, its defenses holding strong. Turner knew that time was running out. The enemy was adapting to the human tactics, and their counterattacks were becoming more brutal by the second. The human forces were beginning to lose ground, and Turner knew that this battle couldn't go on much longer. It was then that he made the decision, a grim, painful decision that would change everything. He had one last trick up his sleeve, his cloaking device. The technology would allow him to get as close as possible to the flagship without being detected, giving him a chance to strike at its core. But it would mean sacrificing himself. There was no coming back from this. He communicated with his team one last time, his voice calm despite the weight of the moment. "This is it," he said. "We've got one shot at this. I'll take down the flagship. Cover me." The voices of his fellow pilots crackled through his earpiece, their words filled with urgency. "Be careful, Captain. Don't do anything reckless." But Turner had already made up his mind. He activated the cloaking device on the Titan's Wrath, and the ship vanished from the enemy sensors. He knew the alien flagship was aware of his presence, but without visual confirmation, it couldn't react fast enough. He closed the distance, maneuvering through the alien fleet with expert precision, his every move calculated for maximum impact. The flagship loomed larger as he approached, and the seconds felt like hours. Turner's pulse was racing, but his hands were steady on the controls. He had trained for moments like this, moments when everything depended on a single, perfect strike. He lined up his shot, the powerful weapons of the Titan's Wrath ready to unleash their full power. And then, in a burst of energy and light, he fired. The weapons tore into the flagship's hull, sending massive shockwaves through the ship. The flagship's shields flickered, struggling to hold, but Turner's strike had been too powerful. The ship began to crumble, its systems failing as the heart of the alien fleet was destroyed. But the battle wasn't over. The explosion from the flagship's destruction sent a shockwave through space, and Turner's ship was caught in the blast. His cockpit was filled with blinding light as the Titan's Wrath was torn apart by the shockwave. Turner's final thought, as his fighter disintegrated, was of Earth, of the people he had fought for, and of the legacy he would leave behind. In that final, glorious moment, he had saved humanity. The alien fleet, thrown into chaos without their flagship, began to crumble. The remaining ships lost their coordination, and the human forces quickly overwhelmed them. The war, which had seemed so hopeless just days before, was finally over. Humanity had won. But at what cost? The loss of Captain Turner was felt deeply by everyone who had fought alongside him. He had given everything for Earth, and his sacrifice would never be forgotten. His name would go down in history as the hero who had turned the tide of the war, the man who had sacrificed everything for the future of humanity. The alien fleet was no more. Earth had won, but the price had been high. And as the dust settled, humanity knew that they would rebuild, stronger than ever before, with the memory of Captain Turner's ultimate sacrifice guiding them into a future of peace and prosperity. The battle was finally over. The last remnants of the alien fleet were scattered across the vast expanse of space, their ships drifting in silence, broken and defeated. Earth's remaining military forces had gathered, their ranks thinned but proud. The victory had been hard-won, but it had come at a steep price. The streets, once bustling with life, were now eerily quiet as the world tried to grasp the enormity of the loss they had just experienced. Among the survivors, there was no celebration. They stood together, side by side, but their eyes were heavy with grief. The victory was bittersweet. Though the alien threat had been neutralized, the cost of humanity's survival was deeply etched in the minds of all who had fought. They had lost so many brave souls who had given everything for Earth. And at the heart of that loss was one name, one hero whose sacrifice had turned the tide of the war: Captain Alex Turner. Turner's absence was felt everywhere. He had led the charge, had given his life for the survival of Earth. And now, in the wake of his death, the world stood still. He had been the spark that had ignited humanity's hope, the one who had defied the impossible odds and taken on the alien fleet single-handedly. His name would be etched in the history books, but for those who had fought beside him, his memory was something much more personal, a symbol of courage, sacrifice, and unyielding determination. The survivors held a silent vigil for their fallen comrades. They gathered around the makeshift memorials in the devastated cities, honoring the men and women who had given their lives for humanity's future. Some stood in silence, some whispered their thanks, and some simply wept. The sky above them was a harsh reminder of the destruction that had come to their doorstep. But even in the shadow of that devastation, there were signs of hope. Humanity had not only survived, they had triumphed. As the camera panned over the ravaged cities, the devastation was apparent. Buildings that had once stood tall were now ruins, the streets littered with debris from the war. Fires still smoldered in the distance, and the air was thick with the remnants of battle. Yet, amid the ruins, there were signs of life, of rebuilding. People were already beginning to clear the wreckage, to rebuild their homes and their lives. Earth's military forces, though battered, were already working alongside civilians to restore order and bring peace to a fractured world. The emotional weight of the moment hung heavy in the air as humanity began to pick up the pieces. The battle had been won, but the scars of war would remain for years to come. Yet, even in the aftermath, there was a sense of renewal. The world had seen what humanity was capable of when pushed to the edge. They had faced an overwhelming enemy, one that had seemed unstoppable, and had come through on the other side, stronger and more united than ever before. The underdog theme that had run through the story came full circle. Humanity, once seen as insignificant in the grand scheme of the galaxy, had proven their worth. They had fought against the most technologically advanced and ruthless enemies, and they had won. It was a testament to the spirit of the human race, a spirit that refused to back down, even when the odds were stacked against them. They had shown that their greatest strength wasn't in their technology or their weapons, but in their hearts, their will to survive, and their unwavering belief in each other. In the final moments, Earth's leaders addressed the world, their voices filled with gratitude and resolve. They spoke of the fallen heroes, the ones who had given their lives for the future. They spoke of Captain Turner, the man who had led them to victory, and they vowed to honor his memory. "We will rebuild," they said. "We will never forget those who fought for us, and we will never let their sacrifices be in vain. Humanity will rise from the ashes of this war and forge a future of peace and prosperity." The camera zoomed in on the faces of the survivors, their expressions a mixture of sorrow and hope. They had lost so much, but they had gained something even more valuable, a newfound sense of unity and purpose. The future was uncertain, but they knew that together they could overcome anything. The scars of the war would heal, and the lessons learned would carry humanity forward into a new era. As the final scene unfolded, the camera zoomed out to reveal the Earth, slowly healing from the wounds of war. The sun, which had once seemed so distant, now shone brightly over the horizon. casting light over the ravaged cities and the survivors working tirelessly to rebuild. It was a symbol of the future, a future that, though uncertain, was filled with hope. Humanity had faced the ultimate test and had emerged victorious. The alien threat was no more, and though the cost had been high, the spirit of humanity had triumphed. The war was over, but the journey was just beginning. With the memory of their fallen heroes, humanity would rebuild, and they would never back down.